evening. Welcome to the Film Connection. I'm Lauren Sussman, your hostess and a member of the Hockomock Film Festival Committee. So I want to thank you for joining us here at Comcast Studios. We aim to bring to you news, people, discussion about films in the hopes that you share in our opinions. Maybe you disagree with us. Maybe you'll come and join us for some of our programs. The Hockomock Film Festival is basically run by a team of involved volunteers, and my guest this evening is one of our very favorite team members, I suppose, and a celebrity around town if any of you have gone through Oliver Ames High School, Mr. Ed Hands. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you for asking me to be here.
Well, it's nice to have some of the festival committee with us sometimes, and we're going to be talking about the Academy Awards coming up in a minute, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been doing in the Hockomock Film Festival through the year so far, because we do quite a lot of things besides put on these TV shows, and one of them you are very heavily involved in, which is our film series. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. The film series occurs every other Friday night at Andrews's Cafe. We have this year been showing a selected short subject, usually an old-time TV show, starting about 6:30. And then at 7 we go with our feature presentation. And we've done a number of things this year. Started off with some classic American films, and then we went through some foreign language films, and now we've suddenly realized that people from England are foreigners also, and are doing a sequence of 4 British films.
Okay.
And we're in the second one this week, and that's Persuasion,
Okay.
a 1995 film, and that will be followed shortly by Possession, one of my favorite films.
Oh, okay.
It's probably the lowest rated film that we're showing this year. It didn't do as well with the critics as it did with readers of A.S. Bayat's novel.
Sure.
And part of the reason is that I think the critics misunderstood the modern section of it, and felt that the two modern lovers in that section never really clicked. But that's pretty true to the book.
Okay.
And the great romantic center of the film is the 2 Victorian poets, and it's just a lovely film, beautifully shot, and has a sad surprise ending.
Oh, okay. Now, when you screen the films, basically you give a little bit of an intro to the film, and then when the film is completed, then as a group you sit and discuss it, and people share and rave about it or complain about it, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. The last time we showed a film, it was Tom Jones, which most of us had seen when there was a lot less snow on the roof, and hadn't seen since. It really hasn't been on television a lot.
Right.
And so it brought back a lot of memories when we first saw it. It's a wonderful period piece, both for the 18th century, but also for the way movies were made back in the 60s,
Sure.
with all the jump cuts and things like that,
Sure.
the asides to the audience, and we had a great discussion afterwards.
Oh, that's great. Well, the series has continued in popularity every year, which has really been nice, and you've been instrumental basically in focusing in different areas and exposing stuff, so it's great, and I'm glad that it's doing as well. The festival committee also does our annual film competition, which you're also instrumental in. The film competition solicits films, all ages. We have 3 different categories: drama, original music video, and documentaries. And those submissions are required in May, so people need to kind of look to the Eastern Journal or to our website, hockomockfilmfestival.com, for entries. And but you also have a lot of your students participate in this, which has been very exciting for us to see student filmmakers coming up in the ranks as well. So a few suggestions and encouragement for the folks in the audience in terms of our film competition.
Well, I think the competition from the students will be as strong as ever. We've changed the deadline for them, and it's March 1st.
Okay.
And essentially what we're asking students to do is turn in what they would consider to be a finished product, but what we're going to look at as sort of a rough draft, and they'll have a couple of months to go back and reshoot anything that's not strong. And the reason for that is that beginning filmmakers make 2 major mistakes. One is they can hear what's going on wherever they are, and therefore assume that the camera is hearing it, and they can see whatever is going on the set and assume that the camera is recording that as well.
Okay.
Lighting and sound are the two biggest problems anyone faces. The microphones on most consumer-level cameras aren't very good, but most of them do have a jack that they can plug in a microphone that you can buy it cheaply at Radio Shack.
Sure.
Put on a boom mic. A broom mic is what we call it, but
Right.
you just hook it onto the end of a broom with some tape, and you can hold it over the person's head out of the shot and get much better sound.
Okay.
Lighting is a problem. If people need to borrow lights to do inside filming, we'd be happy to help them with that.
Okay.
And that's something I keep telling my students as well.
Great.
Luckily, in the years that we've been doing the film festival, editing software has improved greatly.
Yes.
So the old adage, garbage in, garbage out, doesn't quite hold. There's tricks you can now do to improve bad lighting, but
Okay.
not to the extent that you'd probably like.
True. So, but there's a lot there's out there for the students, and certainly your experience. And but we just welcome all student entries, whether they're a student of yours or not.
Oh, absolutely.
All ages. We've had, I think, the youngest applicant entry was 8 years old, up to about 80 years old. So
That's right.
we like them all. And
I'd really like to see as many adults as possible enter the competition, because they have a perspective that's a lot different than high school seniors or kids that are younger.
Sure, and courtesy of the Northeastern Savings Bank, we have some lovely and very lucrative cash prizes for all of the winners. So it's not just our little Effie awards that we give; they do get cash prizes, and that holds for something as well. So
That's right.
So it's really been nice that the festival committee has been able to encourage this kind of thing throughout 4 years.
And one thing that we want to emphasize is this year, for the first time, we're accepting entries from outside of Easton.
Okay.
Anyone who can see this cable show is able to enter, as well as any town in the Hockomock League of Sports.
Okay, that's
So-
great. So all of our competitors, we'd love to see you be a part of this as well, which is very nice. So and again, everybody who can see this show. The applications, like I said, are available in the Easton Journal and probably other townline journals, as well as our website, hockomockfilmfestival.com. So please look for those and follow the entry deadlines, because we do respect them. They are screened and awarded, and the production will be in June, I believe, the award ceremony. So,
Yes.
so that's very exciting. So now let's move on to beyond our film realms in Easton. We have something that people know about called the Academy Awards, and that's coming up in a month. And so you and I are going to sit and talk about the films we've seen, some of the stuff we've learned, but also for the folks at home to know that we are running a competition as well. Up until the evening of the Academy Awards, we're asking people at home to submit your nominees, your best guests for the winners of all the major categories. Send them to our email, and the winner will receive dinner for two at Andrew's Bakery, which is a lovely gift. And so we're encouraging anybody, any age, to apply. Send your ballot, so to speak, into support@hockomockfilmfestival.com with obviously your name and how we can reach you. And we're accepting entries up until showtime, which is 8 o'clock, I think, on March 5th. So please, I think I'm going to fill one out too, because I like Andrew's Bakery, and I may be actually right. We'll see how well I call all these films. So, and I'll remind people at the end of the show as well. Okay, so on to the Academy Awards.
Sure.
We have, we'll talk basically about the major categories: actor, actress, supporting, director, and that kind of stuff. So, and there's been quite a lot of press, because many of the films are a little controversial. And as we were talking just before the show started, there are no blockbusters out there.
That's
there
right.
wasn't a Titanic.
That's right. These are some of the lowest grossing films ever to be nominated.
Sure, sure.
Now, they've received a lot of critical acclaim, and in doing some research for the program today, I also went to the Internet Movie Database,
Okay.
where people are allowed to vote on a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
So they have, all the films that were nominated have been widely recognized by the voting public at that website as well. So they're good films.
Sounds like the Academy was a little bit on the mark this year, because sometimes
Yes.
they have some with a way off base.
Yes. On the other hand, as I said in our discussion, I think they nominated films that no one in a red state has ever seen.
Right, which sometimes happens. But anyway, so let's look at, should we start with the supporting actor and actresses?
Sure.
And we have a few that are from, obviously, some of the major films. You know, my experience with the non-knowns, like Catherine Keener, who's nominated for Capote. Jake Gyllenhaal has been around for a while. Rachel Weisz, I will say I did not see The Constant Gardener. It was tough to find it when it was playing, but I do know her from other stuff.
The Mummy.
Exactly. That, yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, she was fine.
Now, she's my pick.
Okay.
And if you've just seen The Mummy and The Mummy Returns,
Right.
you would have no idea that this is a person that's going to get nominated for an Academy Award. But she's done several films to expand her reputation.
Okay.
She was the female lead in Enemy at the Gates, the sniper movie set in Stalingrad.
Yes.
And did a good job there. She also was in a movie where she had a wonderful performance. The movie wasn't widely seen, called Confidence. It's about a confidence scam.
Okay.
Has a surprise ending to it. I guess I shouldn't reveal it, but she's the central to the surprise ending.
Okay.
And was wonderful, very gritty role there.
Okay.
That really prepared her for serious acting after The Mummies. I did see The Constant Gardener. She plays the role of a wife who is very free-spirited, does all sorts of kind of silly things, and ends up poking her nose into a scandal at a pharmacy company and ends up getting murdered. And the action of the film is her husband trying to uncover what happened.
Okay.
So it's a good performance.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with your favoring of that, because the one I would go for more would be for Capote, but I think Capote is going to be recognized in other areas, and so I think that they're going to. And the Academy tends to try to spread out sometimes and pick kind of the long shots,
Yeah,
or the unknowns in the supporting
I think that
areas.
actually is going to help George Clooney for Best Supporting Actor.
In Syriana.
Yeah, Syriana was not anybody's real favorite movie.
No, my family, we all went, and we walked out of there. We did not know what we just saw.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's the general consensus. I feel the same way.
Right.
But Clooney's performance was a good one.
Right.
He's been nominated for Good Night and Good Luck
Right.
As a director. He might get the directing nod there, but Ang Lee is in there for
Very
Brokeback Mountain.
right.
And I don't see
Right.
anybody beating Brokeback Mountain.
But I agree with you and George Clooney and Syriana, because, like I said, we walked out of there saying we didn't know why it was so great and so acclaimed, but I enjoyed watching him, and he was very good. Yeah. He was really good in that film. And after I went home and I went on the internet and I read some stuff, and I kept reading the comments, and I was like, oh, well, I saw those parts. I get the movie. I got it. It didn't bowl me over with intensity or anything like that, but he was great in it.
Yeah.
So I tend to agree with you. I think he's going to pull that one out.
Yeah, a long shot, somebody who's deserving, I think, is Paul Giamatti for Cinderella Man as the corner man.
Oh.
That's one of the films that probably could have been nominated. It was well received by the critics,
Yes.
well received by the public. It came out a little bit early in the year, I think, to get a serious
And that's what they've
nod,
said, is that that's to their detriment. But I agree. I think he's a wonderful actor anyway. I mean, granted, he got his start in Howard Stern's film Private Parts, but he was wonderful in Sideways. He was absolutely wonderful in this film. And so, and I'm sorry that they can't recognize him, but I'm hoping he's, he may pull it out. So that would be nice. So let's move on to the Best Actor and Actress then, because those seem to always be almost crowd favorites. And there's some good ones.
Yes, that's true. Everybody seems to think Heath Ledger is the front runner for Best Actor. I think it's going to depend if Brokeback is going to sweep or not.
Right.
One of the films, another of the films that was ignored, I think, was Walk the Line. Great film. Came out early in the year. My students loved it. My older friends loved it.
Well, Walk the Line came out in November. So it's a little ways ago, but they were absolutely, the two of them were wonderful, I agree.
And so I think they can honor the movie by giving Mr. Phoenix the...
Well, and I think, I mean, Heath Ledger, it is a wonderful role, and but I think it was wonderful because of the pair of them, and he was wonderful in more of an ensemble area. I don't think the movie did not stand out because of him, but I agree that I think Joaquin Phoenix was Johnny Cash, and he carried the whole movie, and he was great. And as was, I mean, Reese Witherspoon was wonderful in that movie too. You wanted to go on forever. I wanted to keep watching the two of them do the Cash story forever.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So again, if they get recognized, that would satisfy me.
Well, that would be nice. I like David Strahan from Good Night and Good Luck.
Yeah.
Almost as a career achievement award. He's been in over 70 films and TV productions.
Sure.
I first really connected with him in a John Sayles film, Mattawan, back in 1983.
Okay.
Where he played the sheriff in a town that was having this terrible coal miner strike.
Right.
Thought it was a fantastic bit of acting there, and he acted in several more Sayles films, 8 Men Out, for instance.
Right. It was wonderful in it.
He really inhabits the role of Edward R. Murrow here. I mean, all the physical quirks are there. He got into the habit of smoking cigarettes for the...
We left that movie
role.
like, oh, I just needed fresh air. There was so much smoking. But I mean, that was the time.
That was the time.
And he truly was, and I agree with you, he was, there was, I think, as a personality quirk of Edward R. Murrow that he conveyed very well, that he was just very intense and very focused. And just what I'm doing is right, and you know we're doing it. You know, Bill, whatever you say, and they did, and they just, and this was to again, I saw it with my family, and everybody, what's the big deal? Well, but TV in those days, to do what they were doing, it was a huge deal.
Absolutely.
To break that wall and to start calling a spade, this was really monumental, and they were treading on real thin ice.
Well, I'm not quite as young as you are. I was in kindergarten when the action that's described in the film was on. So I guess I was predestined to be a history teacher because I reenacted the Army McCarthy trials for my kindergarten teacher. It was Joe McCarthy, you know, to my fellow students as a little kindergarten project.
Right.
It's the very first thing I can remember ever doing in school.
Oh, that's funny.
So this really hit home for me.
Right. Well, the film did. I mean, George. You know, back to George Clooney. He did a great job of conveying, I guess, the bumbles, if you want to say, that McCarthy made, and how they all in the newsroom kind of sat around saying, "Did he just say that? Did he not say that? Did he not answer that?" And they all kind of, when that opportunity hit them, I think that he did such a beautiful job of just portraying how the momentum started going. So
now, when they sent this out to test audiences, the test audiences thought the actors were very, very good,
right,
except for one actor, and they thought he was way over the top, and something should be done about it. People didn't realize that they were using actual newsreel footage of McCarthy. Oh. And thought he was way over the top and not realistic.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because that was, I mean, you know, technology since Forrest Gump has been that we're spoiled now that we can put somebody in these historical footage, but I mean, it was obvious. Anybody who paid a little attention to history recognizes. But you're right, it was great how they did that, and of course, beautiful that it was done in black and white, the whole film, because it was a period piece. But just the whole, I mean, the sets, the language, the properness of their business dress, you know, they all, I mean, it was, they put their jackets on before they go meet somebody in their own office, and it's just, that's how things were. So I think you're right. I hope that George Clooney gets recognized in some way for this, because I think it was really good. It wasn't spectacular and awe-inspiring of an expose like some that we've had in the past, but I think that it was just a beautiful movie. But then we really can't, we've kind of been hedging a little bit around Brokeback Mountain in terms of, because it had so many nominees, supporting actor, supporting actress, actor, director, and all this kind of stuff. And it really, like so many films before it, Titanic or The Godfather, that are really groundbreaking in terms of filmmaking and style.
And it's also found an audience. It started off very, very slowly, and it has continued to grow. And it's groundbreaking in the sense that it's getting people to think about that particular issue for the
Sure.
first time, as well as
Sure.
being a tremendous love story all by itself, forgetting gender.
Exactly. Well, and you know, the mindset of relationships now in the 2000s, whatever we want to call our period of time now, has been more of this crossover, this metrosexual male, this girl crushes, boy crushes that they talk about on TV a lot. So this was, its time had come, not that it hasn't gone on before. And since the movie came out, there have been, you know, many homosexual male cowboys and lesbian female cowboys. This is our life and it's been this way forever. But right, they had to stay in the shadows. But the movie, like you said, you know, Ang Lee, who has done such beautiful things in the past, Crouching Tiger and all that.
Tremendous range, too. I mean, Sense and Sensibility also.
Yes, which was very appropriate for as a period piece, and with music and properness and sets and English gardens. And now you have, you know, the Wild West. And
we do need to mention he did the Hulk as well. So.
yeah, so he probably hides that one under his pillow at night. So I think, you know, I'm pretty confident Brokeback's going to be rewarded for its body, the entire body that it is.
It has to be. It really is a groundbreaking film, as you say. It's been well received by the public too, which I think is saying something positive for America.
Right. Well, yes, I know initially people and some, you know, friends that I've talked to when it initially came out, oh, we didn't like it, we walked out, we were so uncomfortable, and I said, well, but, you know, why were you uncomfortable? Did it make you, and that was kind of, and films that make you think, you don't necessarily have to like them, to make you think, and which leads me into my beautiful segue to talk about Munich.
I knew that was coming.
Which was a painful movie to watch. Again, both of us were young enough to be a part of the '72 Olympics and watch that unfold on TV, which is only a small part of the film,
exactly.
the very beginning of it, and then really the story of how terrorist networks seek revenge, if you want to call it that, and the money involved, and the mistakes that are made sometimes. It was, you know, so different from Spielberg stuff.
Yeah. Criticized for its length. Some people think it does drag a little bit. My students in general liked it a lot,
Yeah.
Which I was surprised at. Thought that the first half hour or so was kind of confusing, and then once you started to catch on to everything, it became a much more approachable film. But the moral ambiguities of the whole thing are fascinating, and actually get Spielberg a lot of criticism.
Exactly, because he didn't give answers in some areas, but I honestly believe that's how it is out there. In the international terrorist network, there are private people who just have the money or have the connections and say we want it for their own private reasons. And that's kind of what the movie showcases, is that there's some things you just can't answer. You don't need to know everybody that helps you. You don't need to know where all your money's coming from. But then again, what I thought was so delightful was when they were initially, you know, looking for the culprits, and they messed up. They, you know, and because in 1972 and 3 and 4 and 5, spy technology and bombs and terrorist stuff was so rudimentary then.
Right.
And we're almost spoiled now in terms of what the movies and what 9/11 has taught us in terms of surveillance and all that. So that was the part that I enjoyed the most, was watching them during these series of plottings to get these people, and sometimes they messed up.
Well, yeah, the ultimate historical score is that perhaps only 2 of the Munich bombers are actually killed by the Israelis, and the rest were not innocent bystanders in most cases, but not attached to the actual attack, which was horrifying to see. I mean, that was, you know, having been around for the Kennedy assassination, I think that the Olympics in '72 was the second most horrible, fascinating, you couldn't look away kind of thing.
That's it. You're watching it, and the newscasters, Jim McKay, and you know, they were there speaking. And again, the only thing that comes close to our generation is basically watching 9/11 unfold on TV, and the horror of what was going on the screen. And here we are watching grainy footage of Munich Olympics, and it was horrifying. So I know the younger generation that was with me like you, like you said, confused about initially what was going on. Did that really, what? How did that happen? Olympics, there's so much security, and we didn't know it then. But the terrorist cells, I thought that the caliber of the acting in Munich was
Excellent.
what really stood out for me, because these people were intense, and I think Spiel, that he does have the ability to sometimes linger on somebody or tell a story with a thread and make sure, do you get it? Did you make sure you, and he just did that. The story was so beautifully told. That was what stood out for me. I wasn't crazy about the brutal killing stuff, because it was really, of course it was awful, and he showed it, it was awful, but he did tell a beautiful story, but I don't think he'll be recognized. I just don't think it was.
No. It's not, if you compare it to his best work,
Right.
it's not Schindler's List.
No, it's not.
But
that's okay. Yeah, but
it's okay for this year.
Exactly. And let's see, we haven't
talked about Crash, which is
yes,
the popular choice. If you go to the internet database,
right,
that's the one that's highest rated of the 5.
Right.
If you talk to my students, that's the one they recommend.
Right.
Part of the reason is it's been out on DVD already,
yes,
and more people have seen it.
Right.
But also the story is intriguing. So many different characters interacting over a 2-day period.
Which was really neat. That was really cool.
Yeah. And we ought to note that Matt Dillon, as the corrupt cop, got a nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
Right, to pull out of that one. So yeah, so I think, I don't know how they can recognize Crash, but it may pull itself out somehow. But then we also, my personal favorite for Best Actor would be, I totally forgot Philip Seymour Hoffman in Capote, because that was as good as Joaquin Phoenix was for Johnny Cash. He was playing Johnny Cash, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, for people who have ever seen Truman Capote or ever read, I read In Cold Blood, and I was chilled by it the first time. The movie was absolutely an incredible performance on his part. He could have been the only person doing the whole thing, and it would have been enough for me. So that's going to be a tough one. I think that I'm hoping that they'll recognize Capote for that, Brokeback for Best Picture, and maybe I don't know, music or whatever else it's been nominated for.
Catherine Keeler, also don't forget in Capote, as Harper Lee, is got a nomination for Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah, but I tend to agree with you on Rachel Weisz, though.
Yeah.
So that's it. But it's going to be really fun to sit, and I'm glad we barely got through all of them, because we could sit and talk about these forever. But to remind the folks at home that you too can vote, and the winner, whoever gets it, we're talking top 5 awards. Send your ballots in to support@hockomockfilmfestival.com, and the first winner that we receive in, because we're able to have the timestamp on our emails, will win dinner for 2 at Andrew's Bakery, courtesy of the Hockomock Film Festival. So we hope we are able to, and we're going to invite you to come on the show too. So there's an added bonus. But thanks for tuning in on behalf of the Hockomock Film Festival, and Mr. Ed Hands, who joined me for the Oscars. Well, we know where you're going to be in front of your TVs on March 5th, just like we are going to be. And please tune in again Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can catch our show. Be on the lookout for the film series at Andrew's Bakery. Keep an eye out for the film competition. Submissions in May. I'm Lauren Sussman. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again. Good night.